Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2018 action sequel, The Equalizer 2. The film is once again directed by Anton Fuqua and it stars Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal, Ashton Sanders, Orson Bean, Bill Pullman and Melissa Leo. Now this time round, it's much more of a revenge tale rather than the first film. So Denzel Washington, we see, is pretty much the fully fledged vigilante. We see him at the beginning of the film rescuing a daughter that's been kidnapped and taken overseas. So you're reminded what a badass he is right at the beginning of this film. And then he's trying to be like the good angel around his neighborhood. He's trying to take a young man under his wing who's being swayed by the local gangs and the violence and things, and he's trying to basically put him on the right track because he can see potential in this lad. And he also then connects with his old partner, played by Pedro Pascal, Dave, after his mentor and friend Susan Plummer, played by Melissa Leo, is seemingly killed while investigating a case. Denzel Washington then discovers that the person responsible for this is someone he knows and trusts, and he vows revenge not just on him, but also anybody else responsible. Right, what are my thoughts on The Equalizer 2? Well, just last week I reviewed the first Equalizer, as I explained on that review. I'm very much looking forward to the Equalizer 3 that's coming out in a couple of months. I'm a big fan of these Equalizer films. I did used to enjoy the TV show back in the 80s with Edward Woodward. It's got, a pretty iconic theme, all that kind of stuff. So I was delighted with the quality of the first film. While I don't think this film is up to the quality of the first film, and we'll talk a little bit about why, maybe some of the reasons, I still think this is a solid sequel in every aspect, really. I think this time round, I think the idea of it being like a revenge for him, after his mentor and friend is killed. That makes a lot of sense, sort of thing, and I think it could have been handled a little bit better in a sense of it. They really could make it a much more pivotal part of the film. We know the first film establishes him as like this vigilante where he helps the innocent and the people on the streets that can't help themselves, and we do see that very effectively in this film on a couple of occasions. Like at the beginning with the train trying to get the child back, and there's another scene where this woman is abused and assaulted in a hotel room, and he takes his revenge out on those responsible. And then him kind of taking this youth under his wing, I just thought that was focused on a little bit too much, and this character Miles becomes a bit more of an integral part of the film than it needed potentially. I understand why they tried to maybe go there because of his relationship with, the prostitute in the first film and all that kind of stuff, and his desire to, put the young and on the right path and support and help them and stuff. But I don't know, it just didn't have the same impact, I don't think, as it did in the first film. And there's some mild spoilers here, but the child gets, well, not the child, the teenager, the young man that he's looking after or trying to help, gets kidnapped at one point by the people responsible for killing his boss. And you never really feel like he's in danger. And I suppose that you could see that as a positive and a negative for these Equalizer films. This time round, he seems far more indestructible, if you like, than he did in the first film. In the first film, he did actually get hurt a couple of times, especially in the final battle and the final fight, and it exposed him for being human and the fact that he's not, this unstoppable machine, if you like. You don't see that as much in this. Even the final fight between himself and his arch enemy in this film, and they should have skills that kind of match up to each other. No, not really. doesn't ever really feel like he's in any danger in this film. And again, that removes some of this tension. Whereas in the first film, he had a real good villain to face up against that was brilliantly portrayed. This time round, the villain is a little bit dull in comparison, and the villain should be even more. It should have been presented as a bigger threat, I think, than what we actually got. So I do think there were some missteps here with this film, and I think this film could have been probably fairly considerably better than what we got. I still don't think this is what I would describe as a bad film or a bad sequel. I think ultimately it's very enjoyable, and the action scenes are done superbly once again, and Denzel Washington fully commits to the physicality of the role, and you absolutely believe him when he starts, doing the things he does in this film. But at times, it kind of feels like he's a different character. At times he feels like the Robert McCall you know and love and got to know in the first film, and other times it doesn't as much. And some of that could be how he's presented, whereas in the first film he's like, he's got his bald head, and in this film he's got hair. He seems a little bit larger in this film. He comes across as a bit more of an older man in this film, which I think is unfortunate. And after looking at the trailers for the Equalizer 3, that doesn't appear to be the case. It looks like he has he's gone bald again in that one, and he looks more physically imposing in that one. So I think this is a super sequel. I am a big fan of this sequel. And interestingly, it's the first sequel that Denzel Washington has ever done, and also it was the first sequel that Anton Fuqua had ever done in his career as well. So that's an interesting fact as well. So I am really excited for the third one. I do think if you've never seen the Equalizer films, I strongly recommend you check them out. They are superb films, especially the first one. Very, very enjoyable. You get to see Denzel Washington absolutely kicking ass, taking names, and easily one of my favourite parts that he's ever put to screen. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.